Chair is now recognized for an opening statement. Section 1 of the Sherman Act makes anti-competitive restraints of trade illegal. This includes coordinated actions that harm consumers by limiting the choices available to Americans. That is exactly what the World Federation of Advertisers, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, and every company that is a member of these organizations has done over the last 5 years. They came together, agreed to limit advertising on certain platforms and news outlets that millions of Americans choose to read, watch, and listen to. How did they do this? WFA members represent roughly 90% of the global advertising spend. That means WFA has almost complete monopoly power over advertising dollars and a tremendous amount of market power. GARM, which is an initiative of the WFA, includes in its membership over 100 of the world's biggest brands, ad tech providers, and advertising agencies. GARM has representatives from each of the 6 major advertising agency holding companies. GARM's steer team, which acts as a board of directors for the organization and approves nearly every action by the alliance, includes Unilever and other massive consumer goods companies, as well as Group M, the world's largest media buying agency. They collude to make sure that no other advertisers support any news outlets, platforms, or creators that these massive companies don't agree with. And these people do not like conservatives. Again, don't take my word for it. Here's what employees at Group M said to GARM's leader about Fox News, The Daily Wire, and Breitbart News. Employees from Group M said, quote, they hated their ideology. That employee was discussing how to pull advertising from these news outlets. And unfortunately, it's not just Group M. Unilever encouraged Facebook to label one of President Trump's political ads as misinformation during the 2020 election, which would have caused that ad to be removed from Facebook. GARM organized a boycott of Twitter when Mr. Musk bought the platform and bragged about cutting Twitter, and then they bragged about cutting Twitter's revenue by 80%. Unilever wrote to GARM's leader that the company had, quote, issues with overtly partisan takes by Elon Musk. The example Unilever gave was Elon Musk's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story. Unilever had a problem with Elon Musk releasing internal Twitter documents to journalists and exposing how and why Twitter incorrectly suppressed the story about the Biden's family influence peddling. It's the Twitter files. GARM and its members threaten platforms that don't comply, and the best example is Spotify's, Joe Rogan's comments on Spotify when Joe Rogan's comments about the COVID-19 vaccine. To be clear, any of these companies could, on their own, legally refuse to advertise on a certain platform or news outlet or with a certain content creator. Unilateral decisions are not illegal. But if they choose to pull advertising from the Daily Wire or other similar outlets, they will not be reaching millions of Americans who choose to consume that content, but their competitors will. In other words, no single company can unilaterally pull its advertising dollars off a platform or news outlet over a long period of time because that company's competitors will advertise and reach the audience. It's called the market. Ørsted, a Danish renewable energy company, explained it perfectly when its employees wrote an email to GARM asking when the Twitter boycott will end. Ørsted told GARM that Twitter, quote, is an important platform for us to reach our audience, so we would like to consider going back. But they looked to GARM for direction, and they were asking GARM for permission. And frankly, that's exactly how cartels operate. They collude against conservatives and other outlets, platforms, and content creators. In fact, they come right out and say it. GARM's leader wrote that the issue with the advertising industry and digital platforms is the, quote, extreme global interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. He also complained taking U.S. norms and applying them globally is something that's a concern, and said there's a problem with Americans' 230-year-old Constitution. If the WFA and GARM are allowed to continue, if these massive companies can collude without consequences, the results will be devastating. If this cartel continues to target conservative outlets, content creators with different voices and viewpoints, and any person that does not recite the so-called mainstream media talking points, there'll be real problems. They will deprive these good journalists and content creators of the funding they need to succeed. They will use their cartel to eliminate competition based on internal biases of these massive companies, and they will deprive Americans of the content that they actually want to consume. Mr. Jewell, what's uncommon collaboration?
Uncommon collaboration?
Yep. This is from the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, your working charter, priorities for uncommon collaboration. I just want to know what you guys say is uncommon collaboration.
Well, I can't speak for GARM, but I think what
you're on the board, right? You're on the steer team, your company.
My company's on the steering team. I think what they're referring to
founding
here,
member.
what they're referring to
Are you a
here,
founding member? Group M's a founding member of GARM, right?
Yes.
So I'm asking this is your charter, your working charter. What's uncommon collaboration?
I believe what they're referring to is a cross-industry collaboration between agencies, brands, technology companies, ad tech companies.
Well, that's all warm and fuzzy, but here's what Mr. Rakowitz, the guy you guys hired to run GARM, here's what he says. Uncommon collaboration is competitors working together. Competitors working together to rise above individual commercial interest. Uncommon collaboration needs to be understood as the industry coming together, putting aside competitive concerns. Mr. Waller just said we don't have a cartel here, but that sounds a lot like a cartel to me. Do you agree? Sounds a lot like limiting actions that would limit consumer choice. That sounds like unlawful restraint of trade, and all that stuff is illegal according to the Sherman Act. What do you think, Mr. Jewell?
What's the question? Sorry?
The same question. You're trying to tell me. I asked what uncommon collaboration is, which is from your working charter, GARM's working charter. And Mr. Rakowitz defines uncommon collaboration as rising above individual commercial interests. I thought a company was focused on their commercial interests of their individual company.
Sir, GARM is used for a framework and definitions to try and make order of something that quite honestly had no order to begin with.
Well, here's what GARM did. Here's what it looks like, I think, in practice. Can we put up let's put up the email from Mr. Montgomery, who works for Mr. Jewell's company. Email about Breitbart, the Daily Wire, and Fox News. There's an interesting parallel here with Breitbart. As much as we hated their ideology and blank, we couldn't really justify blocking them for misguided opinion. I don't know the Daily Wire that well, but we should watch them carefully too. If we block the Daily Wire, why wouldn't we block Fox News? That seems to me like uncommon collaboration in practice, focused on 3 conservative news outlets. Do you see it that way, Mr. Jewell?
Respectfully, no, sir.
Well, how do you see it then?
I see this is somebody from our brand safety team, and he's asking questions about what sort of standards of service they have and trying to figure out what is happening with that particular publisher.
Well, let's put up the next one. Let's show some more uncommon collaboration in practice. Put up the next one. This is the one about Twitter. Based on your recommendations, we have stopped all paid advertisement because the platform was rather unsafe. This is their opinion due to Elon Musk's decision to firing lotteries. This is when Elon Musk bought Twitter. But it's an important platform for us to reach our audience, so we would like to consider going back. Looks like this was a coordinated, uncommon collaboration to boycott Twitter, but this company wants to go back because they make a lot of money when they're advertising on Twitter. Is that what this uncommon collaboration is that GARM engages in, Mr. Jewell?
We're not party to this email, so I can't really speak to this. We actually have been big supporters of Twitter and X. Recently, 2 weeks ago, we met with Mr. Musk, introduced her to our advertisers. To be clear, we want more choice in this industry, more places to create trusted brand advertising.
Mr. Shapiro, it's been cited several times. I think Mr. Natter said this in an opening statement. A number of other people said that they come together, they collaborate, they collude, they come together because they don't want to be advertising on sites where there's terrorism, piracy, harmful images of children, or other crimes on those associated with those websites. Any of that activity take place on the Daily Wire website?
No, it most certainly is not.
Yeah. So that's just we're all against that stuff. What we're not for is this colluding, this collaboration to go after to limit advertising because you don't like their ideology, you don't like their politics. That's what we're focused on, and that's exactly what's going on out there. And frankly, as you said in your opening statement, anybody can see it.
Yeah, the emails that you're showing, I've yet to see an email on the other side suggesting the possibility of divestment from CNN, for example.
Yeah, and trust me, we did a lot of investigating. We'd had that, we'd have put it in our report. Didn't find a one. It was all targeted in one direction, and they say it in their charter document. Mr. Rakowitz says uncommon collaboration is limiting the choice of, makes absolutely no sense to me.
Thank you, Mr.
If I could, real quick, Mr. Jewell, you said you'd be happy to work with the Daily Wire if they reach out to you. I don't know anything about how the advertising world works. Is that how it normally happens? Do they reach out to you and say, hey, we'd like you guys to advertise here? Or do you say, wow, this is a platform with 15 million followers, 50 million views on YouTube. That's some place we want to go as a potential to make our clients money. How does it work normally?
Generally, publishers come to us and say, this is the audiences that we have, this is the type of content we have, would this be appropriate?
So it's that way. So it's from Daily Wire to you.
Yes.
Okay. And then just to be clear, that happened.
Apparently, but neither of us knew it.
Yeah, that happened, and your people told his people, Group M people told the Daily Wire people, sorry, it ain't gonna work. You guys are too darn conservative, which is the whole point of today's hearing.
I can only go on what Mr. Shapiro said.
I can only go on that too, but he hadn't told us anything.
Well, what he said was
today
uphill battle, I think, not that it won't work.
Well, okay, then I'll change. It's an uphill battle, right? But it's not an uphill battle to get it on The View, The Washington Post, and CNN and everything else. And that is the point.